My phone buzzed at exactly 9:32 a.m. The screen said, "Dad." I hadn't heard from him in 3 years. Not a text. Not a birthday call. Nothing. Forbes had published the 30 under 30 list 30 minutes earlier. My name was on it. My company was worth 7 figures. Funny how you stop being the family failure the second your net worth has a comma in it. I stared at the screen. 12 seconds, 20, 30. I didn't answer. Because I knew exactly why he was calling, and it had nothing to do with pride. They called me a quitter when I dropped out. An embarrassment. A waste of potential. Now they wanted to talk about family. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there? Drop your time zone below. And if this already sounds familiar, hit that subscribe button. You'll want to see where this goes. I let the call go to voicemail. That was my first mistake. Or maybe my first smart move. Because what came next proved I was right about all of them. Let me back up. 3 years ago, I was a junior in college. Business major. Decent grades. Paying my own way with loans and a campus job. Then my grandmother got sick. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live, maybe less. She was the only person in my family who ever believed in me. The only one who listened. Who asked what I wanted, not what I should want. My parents didn't want to deal with it. My older brother, the golden child with the MBA, said he was too busy with his startup. So I dropped out. Moved back home. Took care of her. My mother left a voicemail the day I withdrew. "You're throwing your life away. Don't expect us to fix this." My father said worse. "You're dead to us. Don't come crawling back when you realize what you've done." My brother just laughed. Guess we know who the quitter is. But my grandmother said something different. 3 weeks before she died, she held my hand and whispered, "Build something that matters. Don't wait for permission." So I did. I taught myself to code. Python, then JavaScript. I watched YouTube tutorials on a $200 laptop. I freelanced for $300 a project. I lived on ramen, slept 4 hours a night, built a tool that automated scheduling for small clinics. My first client paid me $300. My 10th paid me $3,000. A year later, I had 12 employees and a software-as-a-service product bringing in 6 figures annually. I kept every email, every rejection, every nasty text from my family. I'm meticulous like that. I thought they'd forgotten I existed. I was wrong. 2 days after the Forbes article dropped, they showed up at my office. No warning, no appointment. My assistant buzzed me. "Your family is here." I felt my stomach drop. I walked into the lobby. There they were. Dad, Mom, my brother Kyle. Dad smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Congratulations. We saw the article. We're so proud." I didn't sit down. "Thanks." Kyle smirked. "Guess dropping out works if you get lucky." Mom jumped in. "We always knew you had potential. You just needed time." I waited. "There's always a but." Dad cleared his throat. "Look, family takes care of family. Kyle's startup is at a critical stage. He needs capital. $150,000. We thought you'd want to invest." There it was. "I paid for college with loans," I said. "You didn't give me a dime after sophomore year." Mom's face tightened. "We raised you. We fed you, clothed you. That's worth something." Kyle leaned back. "Come on, you owe us. Don't be selfish." Dad stood up. "We're not asking for charity. We're offering you equity. A board seat. Partnership." "I'm not interested," I said. His expression went cold. "You've got 48 hours to reconsider. Don't make this ugly." Mom added, "People need to know the kind of person you really are." They walked out. I stood there shaking. 48 hours. 36 hours later, my phone exploded. My mom had posted on Facebook a long, tearful essay titled "When Success Changes Your Child." She wrote that I'd abandoned them, that they'd sacrificed everything for my education, that I'd cut them off the moment I made money. It went viral. 14,000 shares, thousands of comments. Ungrateful brat. This generation has no respect. I hope karma finds you. A local news site picked it up. My LinkedIn inbox flooded. People I'd never met were sending me hate messages. Then my biggest client emailed. We need to discuss whether these family issues will affect project delivery. My investor, the one funding our Series A, requested a call. We're concerned about reputational risk. My PR consultant called. The narrative is snowballing. You need to respond. But what could I say? Anything I posted would look defensive. Bitter. 2 of my employees asked if the company was stable. I saw the worry in their faces. I sat in my apartment that night and wondered if I'd been wrong. If maybe I did owe them. If maybe I was the villain. For a moment, I almost believed it. Then I opened my laptop. I pulled up the folder I'd been keeping since the day I left. 3 years of documentation. I had receipts. The first document was from my college bursar's office, a billing statement. Spring semester 2020. Parent contribution, $0. Student loan balance, $18,450. They'd stopped paying my tuition a full year before I dropped out. They never told me. I'd been taking out loans to cover the gap. I didn't even know until I requested my records after leaving. The sacrifice they were talking about. It didn't exist. The second receipt was a voicemail. Saved, time-stamped, backed up to 3 drives. My father's voice. The day I told them I was leaving school to care for Grandma. You're dead to us. You made your choice. Don't come crawling back when you fail. I'd kept it. I don't know why. Maybe I knew I'd need it someday. I sent both files to my lawyer and my PR team. My lawyer said, "This is defamation. You have damages. We can build a case." My PR consultant said, "If you go public with this, the narrative flips." I didn't want to go to war. I really didn't, but I wasn't going to let them erase me either. I asked my team for 24 hours, because I had a feeling there was more, and I was right. The next morning, a lawyer I'd never heard of sent a cease and desist letter on behalf of my parents. It claimed I was preparing to defame them with false records. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't gone public. They were preemptively attacking. My lawyer read it and laughed. This has no legal weight. It's performative. But it wasn't funny when Kyle started a Twitter thread an hour later. Some people get success and forget where they came from. Family isn't disposable. Integrity matters. He didn't name me. He didn't have to. People connected the dots. The local journalist who'd written the first story called my assistant. She wanted a follow-up. An interview with my parents about estranged children and accountability. My investor pushed our Series A call back, indefinitely. One of my longest-standing clients paused our contract. Until things settled down, I could feel it slipping. 3 years of work. 12 people depending on me. The 48-hour deadline passed. My father texted me. Last chance. $200,000 and a public apology. Or we file suit for emotional damages and elder abuse. Elder abuse. My hands were shaking when I read it. They were going to destroy me. And they didn't care that it was all lies. I had 72 hours to end this cleanly. Or lose everything. My lawyer ran a deeper background check. Financials, public records, social media archives, and she found it. 3 years ago, my parents had created a GoFundMe. The title, "Help Us Support Our Sick Mother in Her Final Days." They raised $11,420. From friends, church members, neighbors. The description talked about medical bills, hospice care, how hard it was to watch her suffer. But I was the one paying for hospice. I pulled my bank records. $22,047, invoices, prescriptions, a private room, a night nurse. All from my account. They'd kept the GoFundMe money. My lawyer found something else. At my grandmother's wake, there was a guest book. People wrote messages. My mother had written on a card in her own handwriting, "At least we don't have to deal with her anymore." The funeral director had photographed every page for the family archive. It was dated, witnessed. I sat in my lawyer's office and stared at the screen. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just understood. This was never about me. It was never about family. It was about money. It always had been. I asked my lawyer to dig one level deeper. Public records, court filings, business registries. She came back with a file an inch thick. My parents had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. 6 months ago, total liabilities, $480,000. Assets, almost nothing. My father had taken a second mortgage on the house. He was 3 months behind on payments. Kyle's startup wasn't just struggling. It was drowning. A former business partner had sued him. Breach of contract. The judgment was for $340,000. He hadn't paid a cent. They saw the Forbes list the same way someone sees a winning lottery ticket. The emotional damages suit? A shakedown. The public smear campaign? Leverage. They weren't trying to reconnect. They were trying to extract. I wasn't their daughter. I was an asset. Or a liability, depending on whether I paid up. My lawyer looked at me. What do you want to do? I thought about my grandmother. About the hours I spent next to her bed. About the last thing she told me. Build something that matters. I knew exactly what I had to do. And I wasn't going to hesitate anymore. I called a meeting. My lawyer, my PR consultant, my co-founder. I laid out the plan. Step 1, file a preemptive defamation suit. Documented damages, lost investor interest, client pauses, emotional distress. Step 2, publish a public statement. Medium and LinkedIn. Calm, factual, receipts attached. Step 3, send a cease and desist to my family. If they continued, I'd refer the GoFundMe to the state attorney general for fraud. Step 4, contact the church and every donor. Offer to refund the $11,000 from my own pocket. No interviews. No mudslinging. Just documentation. My PR consultant drafted the statement. 2,000 words. Chronological. Every claim backed by a document. My lawyer filed the complaint. Clean. Tight. 30 pages. I recorded a short video. First person, composed, truthful. I loved my family. I still do. But I will not be extorted. We scheduled everything to go live in 24 hours. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about what my grandmother said. Don't wait for permission. I wasn't asking for permission anymore. I was telling the truth. At 7:59 a.m., I sat at my desk. My finger hovered over the publish button. I hit it, and I waited. The Medium post went live at 8 a.m. I attached everything. Time-stamped voicemails. Bursar statements. Bank records. The GoFundMe screenshots. My grandmother's card. The bankruptcy filings. The post was calm, chronological, devastating. Within 30 minutes, it had 5,000 views. By 9 a.m., 20,000. By 10, 50,000. The comments started rolling in. This is heartbreaking. I'm so sorry you went through this. Your grandmother would be proud. At 11:30, the original journalist published a retraction. Full apology. I failed to verify claims. I regret the harm caused. At noon, the local news ran a correction segment. They interviewed a media ethics professor. This is why verification matters. At 1 p.m., my investor emailed, "Let's reschedule that Series A call. This week work for you?" At 2, my client renewed our contract. No questions asked. At 2:45, the Forbes editor tweeted my post. This is why we celebrate resilience. It had 100,000 views by 3 p.m. My family's lawyer called my lawyer. We're withdrawing the threat. Please consider this matter closed. My father tried to call. 12 times. I didn't answer. Kyle deleted his Twitter account. My mother's Facebook post was flooded with angry comments. People demanding refunds, calling her out. She took it down within an hour. The church pastor called me privately. He thanked me for the refund offer. He confirmed the donors had been misled. My legal filing sat in the court system. Insurance, a public record. I didn't need a trial. The truth had already won. I sat at my desk and exhaled for what felt like the first time in a week. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. 3 months later, we closed our Series A. $2.4 million. 20 employees. Expansion into 3 new markets. I used part of the funding to start something I'd been thinking about since my grandmother died. A microgrant program, 5 awards a year, $10,000 each, for college dropouts building startups. No GPA requirement, no pedigree, just grit, a plan, and a dream. I named it after my grandmother. The church donors? I refunded every single one, $11,420. The pastor used it as a teaching moment, a whole sermon on accountability and truth. I didn't hear from my parents again. No apology, no acknowledgement. I didn't expect one. I set a boundary. I sent one final message through my lawyer. I'm open to contact if you're willing to enter family therapy and acknowledge the harm you caused. Otherwise, please respect my need for distance. They never responded, and I made peace with that. I spent 6 months in therapy, processing the grief of losing my family twice. Once when I dropped out, once when I chose myself. It wasn't easy. Some days I still wonder if I did the right thing. But then I think about my team, the 12 people who became 20, the grant recipients who message me when they land their first client. My mentor, the Forbes lister who nominated me, joined my board as an advisor. I found my family. It just didn't look like the one I was born into. The Forbes recognition became something bigger than a target on my back. It became a platform. I speak at conferences now. I talk about non-traditional paths, about building in the margins, about the myth that you need permission to succeed. And I talk about boundaries. Because here's the thing I learned. You don't owe anyone access to your success, especially people who celebrated your failure. Boundaries aren't revenge. They're self-respect. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away from people who only see you as a transaction. My grandmother told me to build something that matters. I did. And it wasn't just the company. It was the life I built on my own terms. So let me ask you, have you ever had to choose between family and your own peace? What boundary would you set in this situation? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more where this came from. You're not alone. And you're not wrong for choosing yourself. This story is a fictionalized dramatization for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not legal or financial advice. Thank you for listening.